Zcash tumbles 20% overnight as its core set of developers walk out. Welcome back to Ledger Prime. Let's dig in. On January 7th, 2026, something rare happened in crypto. The entire core development team behind Electric Coin Company, which is the primary organization responsible for building and maintaining Zcash, walked out. Guys, this wasn't a round of layoffs, and it wasn't a slow attrition problem. It was a mass resignation. ECC CEO Josh Swihart described the situation as a, quote, constructive discharge. In legal terms, that means the devs weren't fired, but they claimed the working conditions were altered so severely that continuing to work would have violated their professional integrity. The conflict is what the board of Bootstrap, the nonprofit entity that governs ECC, that is what they said. They said the devs' conflict is with the board of Bootstrap. The CEO publicly named board members, accusing them of being misaligned with Zcash's mission and of changing employment terms in ways that made the work untenable. The key detail here is the devs are not abandoning the Zcash protocol. They plan to regroup and form a new independent company to continue building the technology outside of Bootstrap's control. So guys, this is not a network shutdown. It is a governance rupture. So if we read between the lines here, what it sounds like is the core developers that were working on Zcash had some sort of philosophical disagreement with the board that governs ECC. And it must have been so strenuous. Maybe the devs had one vision, the board had another. They couldn't see eye, so what? Boom, we are out of here, and they left. So the market, they didn't like this. Boom, collapse, 20% down overnight. They reacted immediately, right? Zcash had a powerful run in 25, right? It was a bull run that pushed it up towards the $700 range. But the governance news last night and the devs leaving triggered a sharp sell-off. Within 24 hours, Zcash dropped from roughly 500 down into the low 400s, a 15 to 20% decline depending on which exchange we're trading. Nothing broke at the protocol level though. Nothing is wrong with Zcash or the chain. Blocks kept producing, transactions kept settling, but price moved anyway because markets weren't pricing technical failure of the chain. They were pricing governance risk. So why did this spook investors? Why all of a sudden the massive drop? Because the crypto markets these days don't just price in the code. They price coordination. Zcash is open source and decentralized, right? We know that. But upgrades, research, cryptography audits, regulatory strategy, and roadmap execution still rely on real people. So when the primary coordinating organization collapses overnight, it creates a major vacuum. And investors immediately started asking, well, who's gonna control the future upgrades? Who manages the dev fund? Who speaks for the protocol now? Like, everything is up in the air. And when markets sense uncertainty, price follows. Markets do not like uncertainty, right? They can handle good news, they can handle bad news, but if they don't know, they get out. And they got out not for fear of a bug or something wrong with the chain itself, but fear of paralysis, right? Are the devs going to continue to work on it? Or fear of fragmentation? Now we got two things that are going to compete with each other, and markets do not like that. So the community, the Zcash community, it's now split. Bearish voices argue this creates chaos. Roadmaps could slip. Internal disputes could lead to forks. And privacy coins are already facing regulatory pressure, right? We talked about that in the Monero and Zcash head-to-head video. I'll post that down in the description. But privacy coins, they are facing regulatory pressure because banks and financial institutions like transparency. And this added fuel to the Zcash fire. But on the other side, bullish voices see something different. Helios CEO Mert Mumtaz publicly argued that this may be positive because the most competent developers are now free from what he called crippling foundation politics. Politics were getting in the way of them being creative and doing what they felt was right. Right? So now that CEO, Mert Mumtaz, CEO of Helios, says this might be good. Unleash the developers to be creative and build stuff. Meanwhile though, Zcash founder Zoko Wilcox defended the bootstrap board, calling its members people of integrity. And this tells you everything, guys. This wasn't a technical dispute. It was a philosophical split over control. So why should this rattle all of us? Okay, I'm spooked because it's not just a Zcash story. This is a reminder of a hard truth in crypto. Number one, these are not big, massive companies. This isn't a Microsoft or Nvidia, right? Most of these coins, we refer to them as projects. I'm in charge of this project, or this foundation runs this project. They are not companies. They are projects, small projects where a core set of developers can leave and boom, the price drops 20%, right? We have to remember that how small these are, right? It also reminds us that decentralization on paper does not eliminate governance risk, because many major protocols still rely on foundations, boards, and developer funds to function smoothly. And when something gets out of whack in there, things can move quickly and not in the direction we want. And when those human systems fracture, markets react instantly, even if the chain keeps running. So the key question for 26 isn't whether Zcash works, because it does. It still works, nothing happened at that level. But it's who controls the development budget? Who's going to be in charge of coordinating the upgrades? And is the ecosystem going to reunify or continue to fragment? And that question applies far beyond Zcash. Guys, if you got value out of this breaking news story, hit like, hit subscribe. We're going to keep you updated on this story and everything else breaking in cryptocurrency. But for now, this is Ledger Prime.